So in this video, I'm going to cover how to make floor plans. And let's just take a quick review of where we stand right now. We've got 5 views in SketchUp. We've got one for our cover page. We've got a south elevation in a construction document style that doesn't have any background. An east elevation in the same style. Our north elevation and our west elevation. We also have a layout document with 5 matching pages. So our cover page, and then 4 different elevations along with some dimensions on it. So our goal is to create a floor plan for level 1 and level 2 and have that looking like a professional floor plan. So in SketchUp, let's go to our cover page scene. And first I want to just get into the basics of sections. So let's make sure that you have your section tools displayed. So if I go to View, Toolbars, I'm going to scroll down here and make sure that section is selected. On the Mac it's a little bit different, where you would view your toolbars and then drag out the section toolbar. So if I come down to my main toolbar, there is a section plane button. I'll click on that, and then you can see as you hover over different faces, the section tool will automatically go to the red, green, or blue plane. So I actually want to do this on the blue plane, so I'm just going to click when my section tool is in blue. And now you see an orange section plane, and I want to pull that up so it's cutting through the appropriate place. So the way to do that is click somewhere inside this plane, not actually on these arrows, but inside the plane that is defined by those arrows. So once I do that, it turns blue, and then you actually move it the same way you'd move any other object. So I press M for move, and I can click somewhere inside this section plane and then start moving up. And when I get it where I want, I can click a second time, and there my section plane is established. Okay, so some basics about these sections. If you right-click inside this section plane, you will see all sorts of information about it. There's a way to hide it. I'm just going to do an undo. Let's see. I can also reverse it. So if you reverse the cut, now we're looking from below upward. That's actually more useful if you're doing a vertical cut through the walls. So I'll press Control Z to undo that. This one's pretty important, active cut. So if I deactivate the cut, the section plane, which is this blue object, is still there, but the cut is not active. So I'm going to go back in and activate that cut. And then obviously we want to view this from directly above. So we could do that a couple of different ways. I can go up to my views and click on top. I will undo my view here to show you a quicker way is to actually right click on the section plane and align view, which is going to do the same thing. It's going to give me a view aligned to the orientation of the section plane. Okay, so you can see that we have our shadows turned on. So that's something that I want to turn off here. So I will go to my shadows box and click there. And I also don't want to see my ground plane. So we're basically setting up a scene for displaying this in layout. So before I do too many more changes, what I'm going to do is actually create a scene. Okay, now this is a warning that you will get periodically. And what this is saying is that you're about to create a scene with a style that you have modified but not saved. So I'm going to cancel out of that and just kind of try to explain what's going on here. And to do that, I've got to show you some basics of styles. So if I open up my styles panel, on the Mac you want to go to Window Styles. On the PC it's right in this tray. And you can see that we're in this architectural style, but we have these two little arrow symbols, and that's indicating that we've done some changes in the style and it needs to be updated into a new style, or you need to change the style. And you might think, well, what changes did we make? Well, if you look at this Edit tab in the style, you can see that by using the section planes, we've automatically turned on two things here: section planes and section cuts. So if I turn section planes off, you can see that the plane itself, the blue control, has been toggled off. And here I can control whether the cut through the model is actually turned on and off. And the reason that you need that is each of these section planes is going to exist like any other object in your model. And so if you have multiple ones, let me show you by making another one. Let's see, we'll go back to section plane here, and we will make another one going in this direction. And I'm going to select that and push that in. So now we've got a new section cut through our model, and only one of those cuts is active at any one time. I am going to loop back and tell you there is an exception to that, but for now just think that any one of these is active at one time. So if we go to our elevations now, and I was to display our section planes, you would see both of these objects showing up, which we don't want in our elevation. So there'd be a lot of extra stuff in your layout display that you don't want to see. So you need particular styles that can show these section planes and section cuts, and you need other styles that don't show them. So right now we have a construction document style that we're using for the 4 elevations, and very conveniently it does not show section planes, but it does show section cuts. So we're not seeing anything that's not active. But if we go to this cover page and we display both our section cuts and section planes, and if I make one of those active, and update this cover page scene, now it's saying that we have not changed this. We have a style that needs to be updated here. So I'm going to cancel out of that and go back and show you what we need to do. So we need to actually create a new style, and I'm going to go up to this create button, and I'm just going to call this our cut, section cut and plane style. Okay, so I'm going to update it now. So we have a style that will display both our section cuts and our section planes, and we'll use that while we're configuring these section cuts and planes. So I'm going to click on this one and delete it. What we really want is this section cut here. So I'm going to click on this, right click inside the blue plane and activate the cut, and it's going in the direction we want. And I'm going to align the view. So I right clicked inside this blue box, and I'm going to align the view on the top. And let's go ahead and turn our camera to parallel projection, and I'm going to turn our shadows off. And I don't really want to see the ground plane here either, But let's make a new scene so that we can save all these settings in here. So I'm going to go to Scene and click on New, and then I'm going to name this L1 Floor Plan. And that's the scene that we will use in Layout to actually display this floor plan. So one of the things I want to do is go to my Layers tab, and I'm going to turn off my ground. Okay, that all looks good. So let's update this. So I'll right click, update it, and let's take a look at what we're getting here. So you can see that I'm actually seeing the floor fill inside the wall, and I'm seeing our slab fill inside this wall. So this section cut is not exactly what I want. The problem is when SketchUp does a cut, since it's not a solid modeling program, it's a surface modeling program, it doesn't fill in this wall. This wall is just empty on the inside. So what we're going to do is make a slice through this and actually superimpose a filled in slice on top of the floor plan so that it'll look good. So one thing at a time here. Let's go back to our floor plan, and we're seeing that from above. Now let's see what happens when we save our file, and then we're going to go into Layout, and I'm going to go to the 5th page here, and I'm just going to reproduce a page and rename that page to L1 Floor Plan. Okay. So I'm going to right click and go to my scenes and select L1 Floor Plan. So now we have the floor plan, we have a dimension that came along from the previous page when we reproduced the whole page. So I'm going to just click on that 24-foot dimension and delete that. I want to right click on this and set my scale to 1/4 inch. Okay, and then I'm going to double click, hold down the Shift key, and pan this into place. And click outside. Okay, so we're in Layout now, and we're still seeing that open wall problem. Couple other issues we need to fix here. I want to turn the decks off, and I also want a white background. So we're going to go back into SketchUp and clean all that up and save SketchUp and come back in to Layout. So here we're back in SketchUp, and let's see now. First thing, I'm going to turn my decks off. So I'm going to go to Layers, and I can turn my entire site. I guess I've exploded that master layer. So I'm going to turn decks off, and I'm going to turn the fireplace off. I will right click and update. Okay. Now we're in a style that has this gray background. So I'm going to go into my styles and to my Select tab. Now we were using this construction document style. So I'm going to go back to that. And that looks like that has, I'll just show you here if we go into Edit, that has section cuts enabled. So if there are any section cuts that are active, it's going to display them, which is perfect. So I will right click here, Update, File, Save, and then go back to Layout, and now right click here and update our model reference. Okay, so it looks like the decks got cleared up, but our style doesn't seem to have taken. So let's take a look here. I'm going to go to my SketchUp model, Styles, and it doesn't look like our construction document was selected for some reason. I can actually change it right here. So I'm going to do that. Not sure why it didn't take in SketchUp. Perhaps we didn't update. I'll update again, do a file save, and go back into Layout. Update that model reference. And okay, so now it's in the construction document style. That's good. Okay, so what we want to do now is actually create a slice and color it in appropriately and actually put it right on top so that all of these walls will show in a darkened color. And at the same time, we can also do some work on our windows and doors and put in door swings. So back in the SketchUp model, we're in this level 1 floor plan, and I'm just going to reposition our view here. And now we want to turn on our section planes. So I'm just going to toggle that so now we can see this plane. And if I right click here and select create group from slice. So what that's going to do is create a SketchUp group that is just this thin slice through the walls. Now, the way they implement it is a little funky in that it's actually just above the section cut, so you actually can't see it right now. So I'm going to turn the section planes off, and I'm also going to turn off the section cut. And now you can see that's the group that got created. So it's a little hard to actually select or to move this. Let's see if we can do it. Okay, it's already selected, so I'm just going to move that straight out along the red axis. And let's just take a look at that. So that's pretty cool. That's actually the slice itself, slicing through all of the geometry that was enabled at that time. So let's make a new scene tab. So I'll go to my scenes, and now it's giving me this. I've updated my scene style. I'm going to say do nothing here because the reason we got that warning is I temporarily turned on our section planes. So I'm going to just say do nothing to save changes and create the scene. Okay, so let's call this cut level 1. That's our tab. And let's also, since this is a group, I'm going to assign this to a layer. So since we're going to have several of these cuts, I'm going to make a new section and call it cut with a bunch of dashes, and then make one that says cut L1 for a level 1, and another one cut level 2. We'll eventually do that. So since these are sorted alphabetically, they all get nicely arranged here. So with this section cut, or this slice enabled, I'm going to go to Entity Info, and I'm going to pick L1 cut. The next thing I'm going to do is actually move this slice down to the same level that the slab is on. So I'm going to grab it, I'm going to hit the up arrow to lock into the blue axis and reference the top of the slab. Not really important exactly where it is, but I want to get it below my slice so that I don't lose it when we enable these slices. Okay, so we've got it displayed. We've got a scene tab for it. Let's get an overhead view. So I click on this top view. And another thing we want to do is we want to hide the rest of the layers. So I'm going to click on L2 cut, and then I'm going to scroll to the bottom and shift click on site ground and click in any of those. So now I have hid all those, hid multiple layers at one time. So I'm going to click back over there and zoom in a little bit here and right click and update on our cut. And now we get that same warning that I'm going to actually cancel out of this. So we need to establish a style that's going to work for us here that is appropriate. So let's see what happens if we just update this. Construction style with section cuts enabled. That's what it used to be. So that's fine. I think we can use that style here. So I'm going to now right click on the scene tab and update. I'll click off of this for a second and you'll see what we have. Okay, so let's just click on the scene tab, make sure everything's okay, which it is. And now what I want to do is explain exactly what we have here. We have a group, so if I click on it and go to Entity Info, you'll see that it's a group. We've already assigned it to a particular cut layer. And now if I double click to open up this group, and let's see, double click, open up the group, and now if I click on, this is a door, it looks like in Entity Info, that says that it's a door because I labeled that door component. If we go over here, I've got my window. If I go here, I've actually got another group, which is the inner wall. If I click out here, we've got another group, which is the outer wall. So basically what happened here is that when it made this slice and it made it into a group, inside of that group are slices through any of the other groups or components that were in our first level that got sliced through. So at first it seems like this is going to be a real pain in the butt because we want to fill in all these walls. But it's actually an advantage in that if we want to change a window or a door and we have multiple instances of windows and doors, for instance, this is a door right here. If I edit this, so I'm going to double click, I'm actually opening it up, and I hide rest of model, you can see that we've got 4 instances of that door in this slice. So if we change one of them, all 4 are going to update. And same with the window. So if I double click on this, you can see we have 2 instances of this window. So that's great. If we change those into a more symbolic representation of a window, we'll get all those windows at once. So first thing, let's just color in the walls. And to do that, we're going to make a continuous wall, including our inner walls. So what I want to do is actually explode this outer wall group. So I'm going to right click on it and explode it. And I want to click on any of the inner walls. So I'm clicking, shift clicking. Here's another inner wall. I'll shift click on that. And I'm going to right click on any of them and pick explode right here. Okay, so now I'm going to open up my outer group again. If I get my erase tool and come in here, I should be able to erase these lines because I exploded those wall groups and they're now all ungrouped geometry. Okay. And the second thing I can do is fill that in. So if I take my line tool and just draw any of these lines here, it all fills in nicely. So let's see if this guy, if I can draw a line here, let's see if that works. Yep. And draw another line here. And that fills in. So I'm just tracing over these exploded groups. And we're getting a fill color there. I'm going to actually get the rectangle tool and trace over this and then delete that. So now we've got kind of this background color here, but say we want something a little darker. I'm going to go down to materials and pick kind of a medium gray and fill inside there. So if you want black, for instance, you can get black. So now we've got solid walls, and basically this slice we're going to superimpose over our view and layout and get some nice looking walls. But before we do that, we have a couple other things to do here. This is a slice through the refrigerator. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete the cabinets. And let's see what else we've got. We've got this shower unit. I'll go ahead and delete that. Oh, we've got one other little piece of wall here. So let me see if I can erase this line and then redraw. And that should fill back in. And now I'll go over to materials and color that the same. Okay. So I'm actually going to save my file here. And next up there's one other little piece here. So let's see. If I redraw here, that gets filled in, and I'm going to fill that into the wall color. Okay. So let's do doors first. So we have a door component here, and just to review, if I double click on that and I hide rest of model, you can see that I've got 4 instances of that. If I go up to entity info, if I was just to click on one of these, you would see that there's 4 instances of this door component, sliced component in the model. So let's start with the front door here. I'll double click on that. And since the whole door is here, I'm going to actually take a rectangle and just kind of draw it over the top. And then I'm going to go in with my eraser tool. And what these are these are the window panes and divided light. You're just kind of seeing that in 2D. So now I've replaced that with just a solid door. And we can pick a different color. Let's just pick a lighter gray and fill that and close. And you can see now all our doors are colored in. But I want to do 2 things. I want to swing these doors in and then actually draw a door swing. So if I double click to open up this door component and go to my rotate tool, and I'm going to triple click and pick all of the geometry. So the component is open. I'm picking everything inside the component, and then I'm going to get my rotate tool and click in. Let me go back and just show you. I'm going to click here, go straight down, click a second time, and then start rotating and type in 45 and press enter. And let's show rest of model, so Control H to do that. And you can see that I'm going to have to flip some of these around, but they all turned for me, which is great. And now I'm going to go get an arc. Let's see, do I want a 2-point arc? Let me try this one. Yeah, this is the one I want. So basically, if I click there, go across to the rough opening, click there, and then swing back to the door and click a 3rd time, I now have the door swing, and that door swing is inside the component. So all I need to do in this case is come over to this component, and I'm going to flip along. Let's see, let's try the red axis. Okay, so that worked well. And this one, I'm going to flip along also the red axis. And that's not what I want, so I'm going to undo. And I'm going to flip along the green axis. Okay, that's good. That's swinging the way I want it to swing, but I need to move it. So I'm going to move this and kind of align it to the center of that opening. Okay, so very quickly we got nice 2D drawings of our. I'm going to fix that swing though. I didn't quite go far enough, so I'm going to double click, open up this component. I'm actually going to delete that and go get my arc again. Start on this point, click down here, click, and swing it all the way through the door. That looks a little better. And you can see that all of the other door components updated at the same time. So I'm going to close, And now I'm going to do the same for windows. I'm going to make a more schematic representation of a window. So I want to double click to open up this window, and I'll show you by pressing my hide rest of model hotkey that I've got these two windows opened up. Okay, I'm going to press hide rest of model again to show rest of model. And now I'm going to draw a window. I'm actually going to draw the thickness of the wall, or the depth of the wall. And then I'll use my eraser tool and erase all these inner pieces of the window. Okay, and now this I want to fill to white. So I get my bucket, I fill that to white. The reason for filling this to white is this is going to overlay the floor plan cut, so I don't want it having any transparency in it. And I'm going to draw a line right in the center, and I'm going to move that line over a little bit. Let's say I move that over 1 inch to the left. So I'm going to type in 1, and let's move another one. I'll make a copy of this. So move, tap Control to get into copy mode. I'll move this 2 inches in the other direction. And now we should be able to fill this area. So I'm going to fill this to black. That's a little thick to represent a window. So I'm going to take this outer line and move that in, type in a 1/2 inch, and move in 1/2 inch from the other side. Let me try that again. I've got the line, hit M for move that in a 1/2 inch, and click. Okay, looks like I kind of messed up here, so let me draw a straight line down here, hit the erase tool, and I can erase that. Okay, so now we've got a symbol that kind of looks like a window. Looks like I've got some extra stuff out here too. I'll erase that. Okay, so whatever you want for your window symbol, you can just kind of draw it with lines and filled areas. And you can see that the window over here did the same thing, but it needs to be moved, so I'm going to move that in a little bit. Okay, so we've got a nice looking wall outline for our floor plan here. And I'm going to go up and save our model. Okay, so this exists in a scene, cut L1. So let's get that into layout and superimpose that on top of our floor plan here. So one way to superimpose that floor plan is to go up to File, Insert, and reselect our model. So I am going to click on Rustic Cabin Class 4, which is the name of my model. And now you can see we've got a little bit of it right there. We're going to have to pan it in view a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer in Layout, and I'm going to call this Overlay, so that I'll have control over this. And let's see. Currently our model is on the default layer. If I hide that, we can see that it is. And there's the overlay layer. I have not assigned this yet, so I'm going to right click on this overlay and move to layer overlay. Okay, now I want to right click on this, and let's see, I want my cut 1 scene. So there it is, but it looks like the scale is not set properly. So I'm going to right click on that overlay and go to scale and pick 1/4 inch. And now I'm going to have to resize my viewport handles here. Make that a little bigger so that it's not clipped. And this is appearing on top of our default layer, which is what we want. So now I'm just using the arrow keys And I'm going to try to align this so that it's directly on top of our model. And another thing I want to do with this is actually go to the SketchUp model window and the views here. And oops, what happened there? Okay, not sure what I did there. Brought in another view. Okay, so in the SketchUp model, I've got the overlay layer selected, and I'm going to turn that into vector. So I haven't really touched on this yet. Let me hide that layer and explain vector and raster. So I'm going to hide my overlay layer and select this, the standard layer that we have. I'll zoom out here so you can see the standard viewport that we've been viewing. We've been using raster. Now, if I change this to vector, I'll get a warning here, and you'll see that we lost all of our materials, but we preserved the color. And what vector does is just give you sharper line images, but what raster gives you are the materials, the textures of the materials. So we want to keep our background image to have those materials, to have the textures. Now if I re-enable our overlay, that is going to be set to vector. So I'll click on this viewport and that is set to vector. Okay, so we're all set there. And now it looks like I need to just get it up a little bit. We'll kind of zoom in here so that I can align it properly. Now another thing you can do is set the line weight here. So I think those lines are a little bit heavy. So if we go to styles in the SketchUp model, I can actually pick a line weight by point size. So I'm going to use 1/4 of a point, and you can see those lines got a little bit lighter. I'm going to do the same if we go back to our layers, and I'm going to hide our overlay so we can see our default. These lines are a little bit heavy too. So I'm going to go to 1/4 of a point there as well. Okay, so that looks a little better. So, okay, so our overlay is now on top of our section cut, and we can see our door swings. But now we see another problem is that we have 2 representations of the doors. So I want to get rid of one of those. So that's the simple exercise of going back to our SketchUp model. So first I'll save my layout file, go back to SketchUp, and in our floor plan scene, looks like we've kind of screwed up our floor plan scene here. So let's go back and kind of recompose that. So if we go to our layers, we don't want our cut displaying. And I think what happened here is I modified the scene. If we go down to, I'm sorry, the style. So we now have this construction document style that does not have a section cut on it. Okay, so I'm actually going to make a new style at this point. I thought I did that before, but I guess it didn't stick. So I'll create a new style, and I'll call this Condoc Cut. So this now has our section cut in it. I'm going to click to update it, and it's assigned to this scene. So I'm going to update the scene because it got a new style. Okay, so now we're back to, oops, let me undo that view. And I want to get rid of these doors and windows because we've got the doors and windows superimposed on our overlay. So just simply go up to layers, turn off our L1 windows, turn off our L1 doors, and since we changed some visibility, we also have to update our scene. And now we'll go back to layout. So first thing, I've got to save my SketchUp model. I'm going to open up layout, and I'm going to right click, and update my model reference. And if all goes well, some things went well, some didn't. We've got an update here, but it looks like our scene here kind of got hosed. So let me right click on that and make sure that that is, oh, so what happened is I did not assign cut L1 scene to our overlay. It was simply the last saved SketchUp view. And I will guarantee that you will get burned on this. So always try to remember to do your scene assignment and not use the last one that was set up in SketchUp. So we also lost our scale. So two ways to set scale. I can set it here. This viewport is enabled, our overlay viewport. So I'm going to go into current scale. Could have done it by right clicking also. Pick 1/4 inch. And now we will have to reposition this. You know what? It looks like we've got two versions of this for some reason. I'm going to actually delete this viewport. I'm going to press delete because it looks like it's already here in another viewport. So I must have mistakenly pasted that in. But anyway, so we've got our overlay. Let's hide to show you. So that's our overlay, our crisp looking lines and our filled in walls. And we also have our doors with our door swings. Let's see if there are any other problems we want to address. So we did not do a overlay of the bathroom door and didn't do a door swing. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back to SketchUp and I'm going to go to my cut L1 and this door. I'm going to double click to open up this group that we made from slice. And then I've got to double click to open up this group. So now I have this door. Let me do a couple of things. I'll just draw a line on top of it so that it fills in. I guess I've got another group. Okay, so I double clicked on that to open up the innermost group and now drew a line on top of it so it filled. I'll go to my materials and I'll pick a gray color and I'll fill that in. Now I'm going to triple click to get all of this. I'm going to go to my rotate tool and click here in the starting point, go up, click a second time and rotate it over and type in 45 and press enter. So now I've got that rotated bathroom door. I'm going to go to my arc tool and I'm going to start right here. Click once, click a second time, go up to the top of the door, click a third time. So now I can click outside and close, click outside and close, click outside and close. Looks like we've got a little bit of extra junk there, so I'll come in, open it up by double clicking, see if I can select that. If not, I've got to double click again. Is it inside my door? Nope. Let's see if I can select it now. Well, all right, instead of wasting time on that, I'm gonna just live with it. Okay, so let's update, let's save our file, and let's go back to layout and click and update model reference. And now we've got our bathroom door with the door swing. So that is our level 1 floor plan. Obviously we could put dimensions on here, internal or external. I'm just going to drag one dimension here just to get you started. Click, zoom in here. Got to snap to the right spot, click. So you can see we could do all our dimensioning on top of this viewport. Very similar to what we did in the elevations. But let's put some room labels here. So I'm going to go up to text and I'll just click here and type in living. And I'm going to put a dimension here. I don't know the dimension, so I'm going to put XX, XXX. and we'll measure that and we'll come back. So I'm going to click on that text block and I will go to text style. I'm going to center the text in the block. Pick a different font. That's a little heavy. Let's see. Okay, so we've got a nice font there. Maybe make it a bigger point size. That all looks good. Okay, so let me get my dimension tool. And right in here I can measure the inside of my room. Let me click, go right along the green axis and click. So I've got 15 feet in this direction. I'm going to click and go this direction, and I've got 1510. So I'm going to call this 15 by 16. So I'm going to edit the text by double clicking on it. I'll say 15 by 16 feet. Okay, so I've got my room text here. Looks like I got out of center somehow. Let me double click on that. See what happened. Guess I've got an extra space there. Okay, so I'm going to just select all of this text, make sure that's centered. Not really sure what's happening, why it's not centered down here. Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to copy this text to the bathroom. So if I hold down Control, or I know that's another key on the Mac, so probably Command, could be Alt, which you usually use for copying. So I'll make a copy and move that over here. Control, you see a little plus symbol next to the move sign. So I'll move that down here. And now I can just double click and we'll type in kitchen. And over here we'll double click and type in bath. And let's get some quick dimensions here. So see what the kitchen is. So it's 8 feet in this direction, and it's 7'1". So we'll call it 8 by 7. So 8 feet by 7 feet. And we could have gone back to SketchUp too and gotten our dimensions here. So I get a tape measure tool. Let's do it this way. So I'm in SketchUp now. I've got 610 by 7'7". A little easier this way. So 6'10" by 7'7". If you want that level of detail in there. Okay. So we've got a nicer looking floor plan now. I'm going to save layout. Okay. And next up we want to do a level 2 floor plan. Okay, so back in SketchUp, I'm just going to clean up my scene tabs a little bit. And you can change the order of your scenes by using these up and down arrows. So I'm going to click on level 1 floor plan. I'm just going to send that to the bottom of the scene tabs, and the same with the level 1 cut. Clicking on this down arrow, moving that down. Okay, so now we've got our cover page, and let's just take a look and see what we've got here. I've got one of my cuts here displaying. So I'm going to click on the tab again to restore the view, go into my layers and hide that. I'm going to hide both cuts and update, even though the second cut does not exist yet. And let's just make sure, it looks like we've got our cuts displayed here too. So I'll hide both of those layers, update the south elevation, and then quickly do the same for the other elevations. Update the east. So basically, when you add a new layer, it makes it visible. By default, SketchUp makes it visible. So it will be visible in these scenes that you've already saved. So you've got to go in and manually update those. Let's see, our floor plan layer still looks good. It's got level 2 cut. I'm going to update that after hiding that. And here's our level 1 cut. Okay, so I'm going to go back to level 1 floor plan, and I'm going to make a new scene based on that scene. So when you create a scene, it's going to copy whatever's in the current scene. So I will hit the plus key here, and I'm going to name that L2 floor plan. Now you might think that you could simply move the section plane up, but if you do that, you're going to mess up your level 1 floor plan. So we actually need a second cut here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my section cuts, and I still want to be on the blue plane. And once I get there, I'm going to click, and the orange one is the one that I just created. So I'm going to click on that, and now that turns blue, and I'll hit M for move, and I'm going to move that up into my level 2 and click. So now you can see I'm cutting through level 2. I'm going to move that down a little bit. What I want to get is as much of the outside wall as I can while still cutting through the window. So I think the approach I'm going to take is go to my Layers tab and turn off my level 2 roof so that I don't see that. And now I will, my cut is not down in these outside walls just yet. Let's see if I can get it there. I'm moving the section cut down a little bit, and let's see if I can get both the window, second floor window, along with that outer wall. I'm not sure if I can get both, but right there I've got the window, and I really don't have the entire outside wall, but we can draw that in. So let's go to top view, take a look and see what we've got. That looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to update this scene, and it's probably going to give me that warning, which it did. And I'm going to not update the style. So I'll do nothing. I'll just update the scene. So it's basically complaining that we have modified the style that we want to use because this section plane is visible. We don't want that visible in our drawing. So I will go down to, let's see, our styles, and to the select tab in our styles, and let's go back to section to construction style, and basically we lost our cut there. Oh, this is the one we wanted with the cut. So that actually looks fine. Do we have our cut? Yes, we do. Okay. So let's update that. Okay, so we have our cut, and now we need to make our slice from the cut. So let's let's switch our style to the one that allows us to see the section plane, and right click on the section plane inside that blue rectangle, and we're going to create group from slice. Okay, and remember that group is located just above this section plane, so we can't actually see it until we turn the section plane off. So I'm going to go back to the construction document style, and now we can see that blue highlight is the actual slice that we created. So I'm going to hit M for move. I'm going to move it outside of the model, and first thing I'm going to put it on its own layer. So it's a group, and I'm going to assign it to this cut L2 that I made earlier. So I will go down to cut 2, and that is not currently displayed, so I'm going to display it. And now I want to create a scene with just that on it. So let's make a new scene. And I'm going to call that scene cut L2. Okay, and let's see, we want a top view of that, which is great. And we also want to turn off all this extra geometry. So let's go into layers. And I only want cut 2 on here, so I'm going to click on L1. I'm going to click down here, and the last one that was turned on, and click on any of them to turn them all off. And that looks pretty good. So I will right click and update. Okay. So let's check and see that we haven't messed up anything. Here's our L2 floor plan. And here's our L2 cut. And just make sure we've got our L1 floor plan and our L1 cut. Okay, so I'm just going to organize these. So I'll go back to the scene tab, and L1, cut L1 is going to get moved up in the order right next to our L1 floor plan. So I've got L1 floor plan and cut, L2 floor plan and cut. Okay, very good. All right, so we have to do some work on our cut here. Now remember that that's a group, so if I single click on it and go up to Entity Info, you'll see that it's a group here. It's on the cut 2 layer, cut level 2 layer, I should say. All right, so now we're going to actually double click to open up that, and I don't want any of this. This is a cut through the railing and a cut through the ladder, and I'm just going to click on those and delete those groups. Now we do have a window here, so if you had multiple windows, remember this is a component, so I'm going to double click on this and then start editing the window. So what we did last time was make a big rectangle and then start erasing some of the inner geometry. We filled it to white, and the reason for that is we don't want this to be transparent because we would see the wall underneath it. So I'm going to go to materials and I'll pick white, and let's see if we can fill that. I might have to trace over this line and then fill to white. Let me just close. I think we accomplished that. So double click to open the window up again. This one I'm going to make a little bit different than the last one. I made a big heavy rectangle in the middle. I'm going to try a little bit different style here. So I'm going to move this line. I made it in the middle. I'm going to move it 1/2 inch that way. And then I'm going to make a copy of it. So M for move, Control for copy, and move it 1 inch in the other direction. So let's just close that and see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. So I've got these 2 lines representing the glass in the window. Okay, so now we need to join our walls. And you'll see that because of the section cut, I couldn't get it down all the way because we've got a very short knee wall here. I'm actually going to modify these 2 outside lines so they're the same width here. You can see that if I measure that, it's not the 6 inches. So I'll draw a 6-inch guideline here. So I'll do the same thing here. I'm clicking on this inside line, going up along the green axis and typing in 6. And that's there, but it's just right on top of this red axis, so you can't really see it. Okay, so now we're going to join these walls up. Remember, I have to open up the outer group. And now this is a knee wall, so I'm going to explode that. I'm going to click on this knee wall. I'm going to explode that one. And I'm going to click on this outer wall group, and I will explode that. Okay, there's no need to preserve these as groups. The reason we preserved the windows and doors as groups or components is that we could reproduce them all at once. Change one and change all. So now I'll grab the eraser tool and I will erase that intersection between inner and outer walls, and erase that intersection and this one. And now all we have to do is grab this outer line So I'm going to single click on it, and I'm going to move, M for move it down to the guideline. Same thing here. Click on that outer line, move that up to the guideline, and now we've got our nice thicker walls. Okay, so I probably shouldn't have clicked outside there, so let me double click, open it back up again, and now we should be able to fill these groups. But first we got to trace over one of these lines, and that filled on the wrong side. Let me try this. Tracing on the outside here. Okay, that filled. And I can delete that intersection. This one, I'm not sure. We ran into this problem downstairs with the HVAC chase, and to tell you the truth, I'm not 100% sure what happens here, but I'm going to draw a rectangle over it, and then I can select it, and then I can delete it. So I've got a continuous wall, inner and outer. It is filled, so now I can assign a color to it. So I clicked on this gray swatch, gives me the paint bucket, and I fill that in. So this overlay was quite a bit easier than the first floor overlay. Another thing we might want to do here is draw a line here, which is going to fill in this area. So I'm going to click and delete it. But now we have a line showing the loft different than the living room. Okay, so I'll right click and close that group. Let me just click on my section tab, and everything looks good here. So we have our floor plan. We've got the proper view of it. Section cut. It's cutting through the railing. It's actually cutting through these steps. And then all of this outside line work is going to get superimposed. This is going to superimpose on top of it once we get into layout. So first thing, I'm going to save my SketchUp file. And I'm going to go back into layout. So now we want to make another page. Let's see, should we duplicate this page? I'm not sure. Let's try that. We might get into a little trouble doing that, but let's try. So we'll go to pages. I've got my L1 floor plan. I'm going to reproduce the whole thing. Now that should actually reproduce two viewports, the superimposed viewport and the standard one. So first thing, so we don't confuse ourselves, let's rename this page to L2 floor plan, and that shows up here in our title block. And now I'm going to click on, this is the outer viewport, so this is going to switch to level 2. Let's see, we do not have a level 2 scene, so I forgot to update my model reference. So what I'm doing is I'm just right clicking on the model and going to update model reference. And now when I right click on it, I should see a level 2 floor plan. So we did that. It's in a different location, so I'm going to double click and just kind of bring it back in here with the pan tool. So again, I double clicked on it, which is opening it up so that I can manipulate the view, held down the shift key, and panned it by holding down the left mouse button. Same as the pan tool in SketchUp. Okay, so I'll click outside of that. And it looks like we've got our superimposed view too, and we've also got our labels. So let's see. First off, I'm going to get rid of our dimensions. Those got copied in when we reproduced the entire page. So I'm just clicking on those three and deleting. Let's go to our bigger viewport, the one with the textures on it, and make sure see what we've got set for a scale. So it's not set to 1/4 inch scale, so I will set it there. Okay. And it looks like the superimposed viewport probably is the right scale. So I'll click on that, go down to scale, and that is set to 1/4 inch. Okay. All right, so now we need to align things. So I'm going to click here, Now this looks a little weird. I know what's happening. We haven't set this to our level 2 cut. That's actually our level 1 cut with the front door and the double doors and all that. So let's right click on that and select the proper scene, which is cut L2. Now when that comes in, it may or may not be the right scale. So let's check the scale. It is correct. And now we can just use the arrow keys to align this. That looks pretty good. And I also need to change the size of this viewport so it doesn't get clipped out. And that looks great. Okay. So we can leave our living room tag there. And we'll delete one of these. And click on the other one and move it down. So we've got our loft area here. I'll double click, change that to loft. And we'll get our dimensions here temporarily using our dimension tool. So, too much junk in the way. I'm actually going to go into SketchUp, measure our loft. So T for tape measure. And it is 9 in that direction. And 8.4. So it's 8.4 by 9. So back into layout. 8.4. Oops. 8 foot 4 inches by 9 feet. Okay. So we've got our nice window. This is actually our window sill. Let's get rid of that. That's a little confusing. And it looks like we're a little bit misaligned here if we zoom in. So I'm clicking on that overlay viewport, and I'm just going to use my arrow keys. I can't really get it with the arrow keys, so I'm going to zoom in and use my select tool and just drag that right on top of the other one. Okay, so that's better aligned. And I'm going to go to my SketchUp model window and just make sure that that's a vector, which it is. Obviously, our other viewport is a raster because we're seeing the textures of the floor. And we're also seeing this ladder and our cut through our railing. So that all looks good. So I'm going to save my layout. Oh, so we were going to get rid of this windowsill. So let's do that. So again, we have to round trip back into SketchUp. Let's look at our level 2 floor plan. And you can see that windowsill right there. So if we turn off our trim detail, if we put it on that, let's make sure we put it on that layer. Well, it looks like the outside trim got there, but the inside trim, if you don't know what layer something is on, just click on it. So we can change our camera view here by panning around. So I'm clicking on the trim, and it's just on level 2 right now. So I'm going to reassign that to level 2 trim and turn off level 2 trim. We didn't get it. Okay, I didn't assign that properly. So I'm going to click on it again, and I'm going to go to level 2 trim, which hides it. And now I'm just going to, well, let's see. I still want my top view, so I go to top view, and I have to update this scene tab because we changed some of the layers. So I'll right click on this scene tab and update it. And of course save the model. And now back in layout, we are going to right click and update the model reference. And now that layer is hidden and our windowsill is hidden. So we've got a little bit cleaner looking floor plan here. And very quickly we could slap some dimensions on this. So I've got 16 feet in that direction. I've got, oops, click here, click there, we've got 24 feet. If you wanted to do some inner dimensions, you click here. We have 8.4, 9.0, Okay. So I will save that, and let's just take a look and make sure all our pages look good now. So here's our cover page. Now, let's see, we are seeing some dotted lines here. Those could be guidelines, they could be section cuts. Not 100% sure, but we're going to figure that out. This one looks fine. That looks good. Oh, I'm seeing the same thing. So I think this is probably the section cut that we did on level 2. So let's look. East, we're not seeing it. North, we're seeing it. Our level 1 floor plan is fine. And our level 2 floor plan is fine. So I'm going to do a save. And I'm going to go back into SketchUp. And let's look at our cover page, and there it is. We see those dotted lines. So let's see what's going on here. I assume that that is a section cut that we're seeing. But let me erase my guidelines. Maybe it's that simple. Oh, it was. Great. Okay, so I hid my guidelines, and I now will update and check the other scenes. They all look clean. So the point is that it's very common to go back and forth between layout and SketchUp. You will catch things in one side or the other that you need to change. So this round tripping between the two will get second nature. But if you've changed any of the scene tabs, update them, then save the file, then go back into layout. And then, okay, so we'll go back to the page that was a problem, which was the rustic cabin page. And I'll right click and I will update model reference. And now my guidelines went away. And very quickly we'll just check all of the pages here, make sure we look good. And we've got our 2 floor plans. So that is it.